Eagle 95.1, WUPN, Paradise, Sault Ste. Marie.
It's time for The Game. Eagle 95.1 proudly brings you The Game, the Twin Sault's only regional and national sports show. For the next hour, we'll get an in-depth look at sports in the Eastern Upper Peninsula and Algoma region and hear from coaches and players involved in The Game. Now, let's join Scott Nason at the Wicked Sister on Ashman Street in downtown Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan for tonight's broadcast of The Game on Eagle 95.1.
Time to play the game. Time to play the game! It's all about the game, and how you play it. All about control, and if you can take it, all about your debt. And if you can pay it, it's all about pay. And who's gonna make it?
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to The Game on Eagle 95.1, online at thegamesportshow.com. Scott Nason, broadcasting from the studios of Eagle 95.1, WUPN in downtown Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan on this Monday, June 3rd, 2019. The Game, the Twin Sault's only local, regional, and national sports show, sponsored by the Wicked Sister on Monday nights. Make sure you stop down and talk to Kathy, Scott, a whole array of great servers, cooks, and just a great place to go for a good beverage, a good time, and they'll treat you like family, whether you like it or not. We have a lot to cover here on tonight's show. We'll be joined later on by Butch Davis from Butch on Sports from the Metro Detroit sports scene. Butch will get us up to date on everything going on in the D. And then we're hoping to be joined by E.J. Russell from Moe's Pub in Escanaba during our roundtable second hour. But we have a lot of local sports to cover first and foremost. Let's get right to it. Let's start with spring sports and all sorts of action over this past week as far as high school softball, baseball, golf, and track and field. So let's recap it all right now. Starting with softball, the Rudyard Bulldogs softball team won another district at home on Friday. They had no trouble with Munising in the semifinal, winning by the score of 16-0. And then the Bulldogs would defend their district title as they defeated Newberry by the score of 11-4. Brooklyn Besteman hit her sixth home run of the season in that district final. Emily Curtis earned the win, striking out 13 and not walking a batter. She also had a pair of hits, and oh, by the way, she pitched back-to-back no-hitters in the district opener against Pickford last Tuesday and then the game against Munising. So Curtis definitely has it going on, no doubt about that. Morgan Bickle, she also has it going on. Homered a couple times in that Munising game and had 8 RBIs. That's a pretty impressive stat right there. Newberry beat Brimley 20-7 in the other district semifinal. So the Bulldogs last year making it to their first quarterfinal. Well, they're going to make it to the regionals again in Norway. They're going to take on Hancock on Saturday. The other semifinal in that regional has Bark River Harris taking on Lance. Again, those games this Saturday in Norway. St. Ignace, we've been talking about them this year, a team that's been growing, building, some very young talent on that team. Well, they won their first district, at least in quite some time that I can recall, as they knocked off Mackinac City in the district semifinal on Friday by 11-1 count. And then topped Pelston in the final by the score of 9-4. And so the St. Ignace Saints will travel to East Jordan for their Division IV regional semifinal on Saturday, where they will take on a very tough Rogers City team. Onaway will take on host East Jordan in the other semifinal. So there is a very good potential to have Rudyard and Rogers City meet once again in the quarterfinals. Of course, Rogers City beat Rudyard to win it all last year. But Rudyard actually beat Rogers City once this year. They split a few weeks ago, so we'll keep an eye on that one. So congratulations to the Rudyard Bulldogs and the St. Ignace Saints softball teams, both winning districts this past weekend. Sioux High softball team, their season ended on Saturday in Escanaba as they fell to Petoskey in their Division II semifinal by the score of 10-2. Escanaba, always a very strong softball team. They defeated Petoskey in the final to advance to another regional. In high school baseball, I don't know if this would be considered an upset, but maybe a bit of a surprise as the Pickford-Cedarville Pirates won the Division IV district title in Rudyard on Friday. They started off by knocking off the Bulldogs by the score of 7-6 in the semifinal, and then they defeated Brimley in the championship game by the score of 6-3. This ended Rudyard's streak of 9 straight district titles. Brimley also knocked off Mackinac City 8-5 in the semifinal. So the PC Pirates will take on Indian River Inland Lakes in their regional semifinal. This is a bit different than we've seen in past years. This will be held in Rudyard, actually, on Wednesday at 3 o'clock. The winner of that game, will travel to Norway and take on the winner of the other game going on, Norway versus Wakefield. So congratulations to the PC Pirates, and a bit of a surprise here. Again, I wouldn't say an upset. They have a lot of talent on that team, but Rudyard's always the perennial favorite in that district, and the Bulldogs were knocked off, which is rare in the districts. I think it's only the second time in the last 16 or 17 seasons that has happened. Newberry in Division III, they lost in their district semifinal at Gladstone by the score of 11-2. The Braves would end up winning that district. And Sioux High's season ended in Escanaba on Saturday as they fell to Petoskey by the score of 12-2. And it was Escanaba, actually rather the Northmen, winning that district over Escanaba. UP Golf Championships happened last week, and St. Ignace was the top team in the EUP for the boys in Division II. No Division I teams. Sioux High does not have a golf team for either the boys or the girls, so St. Ignace finished fourth for the boys with Lane Matson shooting the low score for the Saints. He finished 10th overall. Brimley finished 9th in Division II with Lane Carrick finishing 12th overall. West Iron County would win the Division II championship for the boys. For the girls, no D2 EUP schools competed team-wise. However, Olivia Champion did finish 3rd overall for St. Ignace, and Newberry's Pyra Rio finished 14th. West Iron County finished 1st in D2 for the girls in high school golf. Cedarville Trojans had a good showing in Division III, finishing 4th for the boys. Jarrett St. Ange, he finished 9th overall. Detour finished 8th overall, with James Plowman finishing 26th. Ontonagon won the boys' title in Division III. Cedarville finished 2nd for the girls in Division III. However, congratulations to Lily Friel, Cedarville's top spot individually in the UP. So she claims a UP individual championship. Detour finished 7th overall with Alyssa Miller. She shot the low score, finishing 13th overall. And Ontonagon, they also took home the girls' title in Division III. Track and field UP championships going on in Kingsford this weekend. Let's start in Division I with the boys. It was, with the girls, the Sioux High finished 3rd in team competition in Division I. Congratulations to Sioux High's Emily McLean, finishing 1st in the shot put, beating her own UP record last season, throwing a 39-foot, 2-inch shot, which is probably about 38 feet more than I could throw that thing. In Division II, congratulations to the St. Ignace Saints. They do it in so many sports. They win the Division II UP championships for the girls. St. Ignace's Elizabeth Becker, she won the 3200, the 1600, and the 800, while Allie Schultz, she won a first in the 400 and 200, while Brooke Branstrom finished 1st in the high jump for the Saints. Heather Lamb in the long jump also finished 1st, and Newberry finished 10th overall. Moving on to Brimley girls, they finished 4th in Division III. As Haley Gambardella, she finished 1st in the 100 hurdles, while Rudyard's Sydney Zerp, she won 1st place in the 300 hurdles. Lakeland and Hubble finished 1st overall for the girls, with Pickford 7th, Rudyard 8th, and Cedarville 10th. For the boys in Division I, it was Gladstone winning the title. Sioux High finished 6th. In Division II, Newberry finished 2nd place. They had a relay team of Logan McCormick, Chase Canfield, Josh Slott, and Richard Nillette finished 1st for the Indians, while Joe Kelly of St. Ignace earned a 1st place in the shot put. St. Ignace would finish 5th. And in Division III, Brimley was the highest team placed in the EUP. As far as boys teams, they finished 3rd. Bessemer dominated the competition, finishing first overall, Cedarville 7th, and Pickford 11th. We're going to take our first break here on the game. We come back, we have more local sports to talk about. We'll talk some hockey, we'll talk some Ontario Football Conference action, and more coming up next on the game here on Eagle 95.1, online at thegamesportshow.com.
Get Wicked Catering from the crew at the Wicked Sister.
We like to think of ourselves as foodies. While our favorite foods are paired with a beer tasting at the Wicked Sister, you can now have the same creative menu for your next catered business luncheon, family get-together, wedding, or holiday party. Our white truffle risotto appeals to your gluten-free and vegetarian guests. Add sautéed shrimp or freshly grilled chicken for a pop of protein. Or let us build you a custom menu to suit your needs. From plated events of 15 to buffets for 200, the Wicked Sister will cater your event with tapas, snacks, cravables, or a full sit-down dinner.
The Wicked Sister, where you'll be treated like family, whether you like it or not.
The Game Sports Show wants to thank its original home, partner, and sponsor since 2015, Sports Center Bar and Grill, named the Sioux's best sports bar for 3 years in a row. Sports Center Bar and Grill is located on 624 Wellington Street West in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Make sure to come on down to Sports Center to enjoy the great atmosphere with great cold beverages available, including those delicious Molson products. Don't forget about their famous 75-cent wing nights on Wednesdays. They're truly the best wings in town. Like and follow Sports Center on Facebook at Sports Center SSM. We look forward to seeing you today. Sports Center Bar and Grill, the Sioux's best sports bar.
The Game Sports Show would like to thank an additional sponsor and special edition home to the game, Silver Creek Golf Course, located on 104 Bellow Lake Road, Garden River, Ontario. And also shout out thank you to Silver Creek GM Jamie Henderson. Silver Creek Golf Course has many specials to offer for 18 holes, 9 holes, and even Twilight Deal specials. It does not matter what your level of golf game is, it is a must to enjoy the scenic course, memorable experiences that Silver Golf Course offers. Silver Creek also offers a Thursday wing night for you to enjoy food after a stellar time on the course. You can book your tee time by phone or online at golfsilvercreek.com. Silver Creek Golf Course, where all are welcome to play.
Welcome back to the game on Eagle 95.1, also heard online at thegamesportshow.com. Scott Nason broadcasting from the studios of Eagle 95.1 here on a, chilly start to June. Had a nice day on Saturday, cold weather on Sunday and today, but it looks like the weather is going to get a little bit warmer coming up here towards the end of the week. Now, it is June, and joining us now via phone, a gentleman that is no stranger to our listeners, host of the Game Sports Show from Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, in several locations. He's been on vacation for a while. He's still not officially back, but we wanted to get him on here, let our listeners know what's going on with this gentleman. Good man, and we're glad to have him back. Mr. Electric Avenue himself, Dave McCaig, joining us via phone. Dave, how you doing on this Monday night? And it's really good to hear your voice again.
Scotty, thank you for the surprise phone call, my friend. It's great to hear your voice. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good, Dave, and we just wanted to get you on here just for a few minutes to let our listeners know what's going on with you. You've been on a little bit of a hiatus from the game, and so we're real close to getting you back. So before we cover a couple local sports here on the Sault, Ontario side, just give us an update on you and when we will be hearing from you again on the game.
Definitely. I found out last week, it was mid last week, that I found out for sure that I will be back June 10th.
Okay.
So I'll be back next week at full swing. We have our show Monday, correct? Then I will be at Sports Center on Wednesday and then Northern on Thursday. And on our Monday show, Scotty, a little teaser for the listeners, we're going to have a nice announcements, going on. We have a lot of big plans going on for our listeners in terms of some, let's say, more viewing opportunities, give it a little tease, and also some guest announcements as well. So pretty excited to get back next week and get back in the swing of things. Definitely missed everybody, including yourself, Scott, Butch, EJ, Jamie, and Justin, and especially the listeners. It's been itching to get back, as you can tell, and I appreciate the surprise phone call here to give an update to the listeners and everybody.
Well, we're looking forward to having you back, Dave. And real quick, haven't covered the Sioux Ontario angle as far as local sports. We've been off a couple weeks ourselves here on the American side. The Sioux SaberCats, well, they were scheduled action this weekend in Chatham. Both the JV and varsity games canceled due to some bad weather that went through that area, and so both teams undefeated and will be in action this upcoming weekend. The JV team will take on the Bradford Bison at 1, with the varsity team taking on Hamilton at 4. Those games, of course, at Superior Heights on Saturday. And Dave, I know in your absence, the gang has talked a lot about the Sioux SaberCats. A good start to the season for the Sioux.
Definitely. And I got to give a shout out to Jamie Antonello and Justin Heiko in particular for the sub-in, we can call them that, for the jumping in to do hosting duty for myself for the month of May. They have been absolutely phenomenal. I know they are definitely fans of being more of the, they want me to draw the picture and they want to color it per se, but Justin and Jamie have done fantastic. And Jamie, especially on our Wednesday show, has definitely talked about the Sioux SaberCats, and we've had guests on all month and throughout the month of May. We will continue to have guests on throughout the entirety of the summer, and they have a great team with the SaberCats team, the SaberCats squad. I think they got a special thing going on there. I know the players are quite itching to get a championship there. I know there's been a lot of joking going around in the locker room. There's a lot of the questions that have been coming on with the good guests to Matt Primo and Jamie are, when are we going to win a championship? They're starting to sound like Toronto fans. They're starting to sound they want to win and they're eager to win. So the SaberCats have had a good start to their year, and I must give a shout out to the Sioux Steelers as well. They lost their first game. They lost their first game, then they won their second game. Right. So they won 16-0 last weekend. My girlfriend's brother is actually on the Steelers roster, and he was saying how he's finally getting back into football, and they got a great group of guys over there. So local football, the SaberCats and Steelers have been great, and the SaberCats in general, I'm thinking that this is their year. The roster is just absolutely special, and Jamie will definitely be able to give more information with that than I would, but hearing his shows and keeping in touch and even checking out their games and hearing everything online as much as I can, this team is special.
Good stuff, Dave. One other Sioux Ontario sport note, the Greyhound season obviously over, but they did have some news. They had a development camp this past weekend. Free agent forward Tanner Dixon, he signed, the fourth free agent that was signed by the Sioux Greyhounds over the last 4 seasons, as he played last year for the Bell Tire Major Midget U18 team, where he had 36 goals, 67 assists, and 103 points in 71 games. So that's definitely good stats there. And they also signed their top draft pick, Jacob Holmes, who was the first-round pick in this past April's OHL Priority Selection Draft, the 18th overall. 6'1", 170-pound defenseman, was captain of the York Simcoe Express Minor Midgets Hockey Club. And so, the junior hockey season, Dave, never ends. A tough end of the season for the Hounds, but you know what? They've been rebuilding for a few years. They're going to do it again here come off season, and before you know it, we'll be talking junior hockey real soon.
Real soon. You know what? This team is always going to be put in the right direction when you have Raftis there at the helm. They, ever since Dubas took over a handful of years ago and have put this team in the right direction, they won't be as many changes people think. Yes, there's a lot of overagers and everything, but this talk around town, you got Yarmir Pitlick, you got some good import draft. They did a lot of good draft picks. It depends how some players do at pro camps, if they're going to come back or what's going on. But I still expect that the Hounds are going to be very competitive, and it's an exciting time for Hounds fans, so they should be embracing this. And Hounds are actually an attractive place for people to go. Everyone thinks, why do I want to come to Sault Ste. Marie? It's in the middle of nowhere. It's further than everything. But you know what? No, the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds know how to develop their players and their coaches. Everyone goes on to the next level well prepared. And I think the Hounds this year with their signings, they're not shy to bring on walk-ons, which is what I like. That's definitely a turn from when Dave Torrey was the GM back in the day. If you want to pull out the archives there, I like that they aren't just focusing on draft picks. Players make it that should make it, and this team is going to be definitely very special. And I know Justin was talking about in our last week's Thursday edition about the Hounds, and he's done a great job over there keeping everyone updated on his end as much as he can. But he was even sharing his excitement on the Thursday show that actually was his fault that it didn't get sent there because there's a computer error on my laptop.
Hey, it happens. It's happened to me a couple times.
He borrowed my laptop,
sure.
And we were unable to upload the Thursday show. So that's why it's technically my fault with my laptop not being cooperative. But he shared that excitement with all the rumors going on with the Hounds. And I got a friend who's close in there, Anthony Miller, who's been a guest on the show, who's close to the Hounds, and he shared his excitement with this team. And I think this team is going to be another deep playoff run team. I'm going to be totally honest with you, Scotty. I know people are going to say, well, Dave, hold on, let's pump the brakes here. But remember, we were saying that last year too. And we doubted them. I give them confidence this year, and they're going to be pretty exciting coming forward in the hockey season, Scotty. Oh, we're blinking. It's already almost, second week in June. Before you know it, it's going to be August, September, and puck drop's going to be happening at GFL Gardens.
So we're looking forward to it. Dave, we're going to let you go. We have to get Butch Davis coming in here in a moment. But again, thank you for the update. Good to hear from you, and we will talk to you next Monday night in our Wicked Sister edition of the game. Good to see you again, and enjoy the rest of your break. And we'll see you next week, sir.
Sounds good. And thanks for the surprise phone call. And listeners, excited to get back to it, everything next week.
That's right. The check's in the mail there, as far as I should say the bill there is collect call. I don't know if you noticed that. So we're going to take a break here on the game. We come back, we're going to talk to Butch Davis. He was a busy man this weekend at the Detroit Grand Prix. We'll talk about that along with other news and notes from around the D. Coming up next on the game here on Eagle 95.1, online at thegamesportsshow.com.
The Wicked Sister, Sioux, Michigan. Check TripAdvisor, ranked right towards the top. Awarded the Certificate of Excellence, as well as voted #1 pub in the UP. The Wicked Sister has managed to create a casual menu that offers unique, creative, and sometimes healthy offerings that rivals menu selections of any big city. Burgers and starters, snacks and shareable, soups and salads, sandwiches and tapas. On Ashman Street, Sioux, Michigan. Welcome to the Wicked Sister, where you'll be treated like family, whether you like it or not.
The Game Sports Show is pleased to shout out a partner, additional home, and sponsor to Northern Superior Brewing Company, located on 50 Pym Street in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Northern Superior Brewing Company having a strong presence locally with many beers to offer. With much involvement in the community of Sault Ste. Marie, Northern has a sport and friendly-like atmosphere within its tap room, and during the summer months, it is a must to visit Pier 55 to enjoy some delicious food, amazing view of the water, and view of the Bush Pulling Museum, right on the cusp of the Hub Trail, and of course, all of that down with a delicious brew from Northern Superior. Northern Superior Brewing Company. It's a northern thing.
Welcome back to the game on Eagle 95.1, also heard online at thegamesportsshow.com. Scott Nason broadcasting from the studios of WUPN Eagle 95.1 in downtown Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. The game on Monday night sponsored by the Wicked Sister. We're hoping to be back down there very soon. Always miss Kathy and the entire crew, and we appreciate their sponsorship. And great to hear from Dave McCaig there via phone few minutes ago. Again, Dave will be back next week for a full week of shows. And, of course, you can hear the shows in Sioux, Ontario, along with this show and others, including the gentleman we're about to talk to on the website, thegamesportsshow.com. And our next guest, he is the host of the show Butch on Sports, which you can hear on his podcast page, Simply Butch 2, that's TOO.podomatic.com, or you can go to our page to find his show. It's called Butch on Sports, where he talks about what's going on in the world of sports, specifically in the Metro Detroit sports area. Butch, it's been a couple weeks. Always great to have you on. How you doing, my friend?
I'm trying to hang on in there, Scott. Trying to hang on in there.
Well, it's just you and me, Butch, for the rest of the hour. EJ Russell, who usually joins us from Moe's Pub in Escanaba, got a little hung up at work. You know how it is, Butch, trying to sell those cars. Can be a tough business, but EJ will join us hopefully next week along with Dave McCaig. And so, Butch, you and I running the show tonight. What do you say?
Okay, we'll do it.
Well, let's start off, Butch, with I know an event that you participated in this weekend. Well, not actually driving in it, but you participated in covering it, the Detroit Grand Prix, which happened this past weekend at Belle Isle. I know some weather got involved in it one of the days, a little windy yesterday. Just give us a couple minutes of what the experience was like and what happened at the Detroit Grand Prix this weekend.
Well, everybody knows the results of the thing here, but in my book here, it was pretty wicked. Saturday was very, very good. I enjoyed the WeatherTech cars driving. That was very exciting because I saw leads swap around left and right in that particular one until warnings come about there, and some of the drivers being cautious in certain instances there. The race was a great race there. Followed by the Grand Prix race there. And, of course, if you got nose of it there, that was delayed an hour and a half because humongous storms racing through the area and whatnot with hail and everything else to go with it. So you had some quiet time. Not to say so much quiet time. You had plenty of time to screw around with your colleagues that you haven't seen in quite some time, or only covered car events and whatnot there. And that was pretty good. The race ended up pretty dramatic as they cut down the race to 75 minutes instead of the total minutes that they normally allow for that particular race, which is a 70-lap race or maybe an hour and 15 minutes there. That was a pretty good race. And yesterday, of course, race was a firecracker with a lot of crashes, a lot of stoppage, a lot of yellow flags. It was a pretty good doggone time. I'll grade them this particular time A- for putting together the event. Getting people off the island and whatnot was always have been a huge complaint, and this year it seemed to go a lot smoother than planned. So I give them an A- this year for the particular race venture they had all that week. They had all kind of things going on there, luncheons, kart races. I mean, with race carts and all this other good stuff there. A pretty doggone good time. They represented Detroit and the vicinity pretty well.
Good to hear, Butch, and appreciate you updating our listeners. I know we got a lot of racing fans up here, so always good to hear the first-hand accounts from Butch Davis. Butch, let's move on, and let's talk about the basketball scene, being that the NBA Finals were last night. The Toronto Raptors with a 1-0 lead going into last night's game, and, boy, they had a great first half, and things were rolling, and then Golden State kicked it into gear in the second half. They came out of the third quarter, I think, a 16-0 run, defeating Toronto by the score of 109-104 to even the NBA Finals at a game apiece. Games 3 and 4 will be in Oakland at the Oracle Center starting next Wednesday. Butch, it's been an entertaining series to say the least. What's your thoughts on the NBA Finals so far?
Entertaining is a good word for that there. We got to see, it really was. We got to see Golden State get back to normal, I should say, in that second half. One of the best teams in the NBA, or in right now in the last 5 to 6 years, of showing up in the third quarter and letting people know that who's boss there, as they did in this particular game last night. Showed up in the third quarter and really ran them into the ground. 20 points, and where Toronto scored absolutely zilch. That extended from the second quarter to the third quarter. And it was a pretty doggone good game. They seemed to have the number of Mr. Leonard there in that second game. Didn't let him run around in that particular game as of yesterday, as he was in the first game, where he was fantastic in all accounts. Siakis as well in that first game. They also put a bend on him where he only scored like 12 points in that particular game that we're talking about right now. But that's going to be a pretty doggone good series there. Many people feel that Toronto's in trouble. I don't think so. I think Toronto will get themselves back together and they'll make a game of it there. All they need to do right now when they go out to the West Coast is win one game, at least one game, and the series is even. And they come back to Toronto and take care of business, and they should have a pretty good doggone chance of maybe getting the World Championship. If not, then Golden State will reign supreme again for the third year in a row of being the NBA champs.
A couple of things I wanted to add here, Butch. We're going to combine our segment to kind of have our roundtable since it's just you and I on this subject. First thing that I noticed with Golden State especially is, boy, Draymond Green, is he important to that team or what? He had a lot of energy again last night, just missing a triple-double by 1 assist after getting, I think, 3 straight in the NBA Finals. And, I thought the guy last night that really was a big difference was DeMarcus Cousins, especially passing the ball. He had 6 assists to go along with 10 rebounds and 11 points, a guy that hasn't really gotten a lot of minutes due to injury. But, with those two out there, obviously you're going to have the Currys and the Thompsons that they're going to get their points, and no Durant. So, yeah, but I really think those two made the difference last night.
It did really make the difference. You don't hear too much about Draymond Green, excepting when he getting all the technicals and whatnot there. But you know what? The work that young man does is extraordinary here, and to keep that team going there. Iguodala is another one who doesn't a lot of press per se, but again showed up in the great moments and really helped that team out tremendously there. Steph Curry last night, he seemed like he had some dizzy spells and whatnot there for something that he didn't know what was wrong with him. But again, that team showed itself very much so supreme. Not only that, but the bench. The Golden State played 11 guys last night versus Toronto only playing 8 guys. And that don't tell you something about the readiness of people getting in there and doing their job. I don't know what will tell you there, because everyone who came in that game made some contribution toward Golden State's victory yesterday via playing great defense or else scoring some points, which had not been counted by Toronto.
Butch, one other thing I wanted to talk about here, and again, this was supposed to be during our roundtable, but since it's just you and I, we might as well keep the topics where they are or need to be, is what do you make of the whole Drake at court and some of the antics going on? Now, this is something that we've seen over the years, of course. You remember Spike Lee back in the 90s during the Knicks run, and even now, obviously, when the Knicks had good teams, he was always getting involved. And, there's been some mixed reaction as far as Drake and, his antics on the sidelines and getting involved with the players and them jawing back. I just want your take on it before I give you my 2 cents.
Yeah, well, I'm quite sure you're going to have a lot to say there. Jack Nicholson is another one.
Yes.
He's been kicked out a couple of games.
You're right.
Understanding here from him being about a Lakers fan, indeed. They put him up in the doggone nosebleed seat.
Right.
As a visitor, just not to get involved. But you know what? It needs to be, the NBA needs to put a clamp on that there. And, I can understand the man paid good money for the seat that he has, a privileged seat indeed there. But to do some of the things he's doing and others are not allowed to do it. You and me would not be allowed to do some of the things he do on the court and get the perks that he received on the court, and such as hats and T-shirts and stuff, because he's sitting where he's sitting at there. We're practically getting on our knees to ask for them shirts and towels or whatever it may be, and maybe not we'll get it, but NBA needs to stop it. He needs to come in, be a great fan. Nothing wrong with his cheering, nothing wrong with him being enthusiastic, but when it comes down to crossing over to the benches and hollering at the other team and saying maybe some derogatory words, because he does have that closeness of being able to go backstage or in VIP sections and whatnot, where he has a handle on both teams coming out the locker room or whatever it may be. They need to fix that. They have to fix that there. They need to fix it for the regular fans who come every single doggone game and cannot pull off that little stunt there. So in my words, it's great to be a fan. I'm glad to see him in the fan. I've watched Aubrey Graham for quite some time. And we've gone all the way back to the grassy days when I used to watch that with my kids and stuff.
Wow.
On a regular basis, man. I mean, like Nickelodeon had that.
I watched it too, Butch.
Man, with them kids and whatnot there. And then have to explain some of the morals of the story and whatnot, which Grassy would come back on. That was one of the best shows for kids they put out there, that they explain certain instances and some of the things that kids have to go through now in school. That show was a great, great show to watch. And it's sickening when we see some of the garbage we see on TV there. But that show, Degrassi, was one of the best kids shows that can be seen on television there, bar none, especially when it comes down to parents putting in their 2 cents and then kind of joining in on conversations or, instances that children go through every day. But to get back to Drake and the NBA, he's got to be set. He got sat down and told, but again, uh, they got to be a little bit stronger in what they do with the young man.
Butch, before we get to my comments on Drake, going back to Degrassi, actually my two first crushes as a very young man were Debbie Gibson, of course, the pop star, and Caitlin from Degrassi, if you can remember her.
Oh, Caitlin,
the guy with the hat. Remember that guy?
Yeah, my man.
What's his name?
Yep.
You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh, man, yeah, I do, man. And he ended up being the director of the show, man.
Right. Well, we'll check our fact finders on that one. Hopefully, get that here in a bit. But I agree with you. I mean, do I watch it as far as Drake on the sidelines? Absolutely, I do. I find it very entertaining. I find that his back and forth with Draymond Green is entertaining. I found after the game there, I think Durant and Thompson saw Drake walk away, and they had some choice words, and it is entertaining and it's fun to watch. But I agree with you. If that was you or I doing that, or pretty much any other fan, we'd be tossed out. We'd be sitting in the nosebleeds if we were lucky. We'd be sitting in the parking lot if in all reality. So I think the NBA needs to maybe try to do something about it. It's going to be very interesting to see. I would imagine Drake's making the road trip to Oakland for those games. That should be entertaining. But Butch, for my thumbs up and thumbs down, I have another example of a super fan in Toronto that definitely deserves some accolades. You'll see him a lot, especially when you're shooting free throws. We'll get to him later on in our thumbs up category, because I thought something that happened to him over the past week there with the Milwaukee series and a fan, and I just thought the way this gentleman handled it. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself here, but we'll revisit that segment coming on. Butch, one other thing, I talked to you there a couple days ago, and we're going to start to do this, you and I, as far as some of the Detroit teams and maybe some of our favorite teams, or an all Pistons team, an all Red Wings team throughout the ages. Now, this is something obviously that's very subjective. It depends on who maybe you like, but I just thought, being the summer, sometimes things slow down a bit. A good time to maybe just look at this. And so let's start with the Detroit Pistons, a team obviously that you and I both follow. You follow them for some time. I go back to probably the mid-'80s before when I started following them, once we got some television coverage up here and those battles in Boston where they could never win in the Boston Gardens, and they did, and then they win championships. And so I want your take, Butch, on your Detroit Pistons all-time team. Who would you have starting on that team? Who are your starting five?
That's a low blow. Oh, boy. Okay, well, I'll fix it as such where, excuse me, I can understand it here. The center would be Bill Laimbeer.
I like it.
That definitely, he would be my center. I say that because he's a two-way guy. He's one of the few centers in all the league, and, we paid attention to a lot of big forwards and all, but true center that basically was about 6'10", and that's normally the average height for a center in those days and times, or in now these days and times, a center is about 6'10" in height there, or 6'11". His shooting ability was just outstanding there, and I think that put him beyond a lot of centers in being able to shoot from the outside the way he did there. He did, do some easy layups and some, other majestic things that he did on the court, but his shooting ability was outstanding there. And his defense wasn't bad either. Okay, he put a lot of people on the floor and in the hospital there, and people hate his guts for great reasons, because he's somebody you want on your team, but someone you don't want to play against. For my big forward, I would say Rasheed Wallace will be my strong forward or big forward. His shooting ability, his rebounding, his cooperation with the team, and also some of the referees was great. Small forward would be Dennis Rodman. Okay, he would be my small forward. Maybe not because of his offense, maybe, but his offense was very high because a lot of his offense was dunks, but his defense was tremendous for a lot of forwards. He can guard a small forward. He can guard a big forward. He can guard a center because he will aggravate him that bad. At guard, I would say Isaiah Thomas. I just can't get off the stick with him. And shooting guard is a tie between. It would be a tie between, I say, Chauncey Billups and Joe Dumars. That would be my team there.
Boy, Butch, I find nothing I can argue with at all. Literally, word for word, the exact same team that I had. I mean, you pretty much said it right there. I mean, obviously, there's a couple other guys you could throw in there. Some people would say Grant Hill possibly as a small forward. I disagree with that one. I agree with you. I like having Rashid there as well. Dave Bing, obviously, in his generation, and it was a wonderful player. But, you look at those point guards there, Isaiah Dumars and Chauncey, tough to, put him there. Hey, apparently great minds think alike, Butch, because you and I had the exact same team. We didn't even plan this ahead of time, did we?
No, we didn't at all. And, Dave Bing was one heck of a player in his days. He more or less carried the team with the offense he had until they got a gentleman named Bob Lanier, which basically he would be second as to me, as if it was a second team, he would be on that second team. Bob Lanier would be there. But again, it's just so many that you can nibble at there and on the edge there. And for me, just doing it right now and just be put on the spot, those are my five right there exactly as I would put them and plan them on the floor there.
Good stuff, Butch. Let's continue. Let's move on to the world of hockey. Detroit Red Wings obviously waiting for the NHL draft here in a few weeks. It's going to be very interesting to see who they pick. I believe they have the number 6 pick in the draft. Butch, anything to add from Wings camp before we get to the Stanley Cup Finals, which resumes tonight?
Well, nothing more than they announced today that they have the annual street hockey events at the various locations around the state of Michigan there. And sorry, I didn't see nothing in the Upper Peninsula. The only thing as far as Upper Peninsula is nothing. Okay? And,
we're used to it.
Well, we're going to change it. We at the game, boys and girls will be changing that there because now they know we're exposing the place. And our 2 cents and 4 cents that we'll be putting in for the season and whatnot there, I'm quite sure that the Upper Peninsula will get a whiff of some of those stars that you hear about, but don't get to see or come in the neighborhood there per se there. And that goes for the Red Wings too here, It's got to happen. The state of Michigan comprised of 2 parts, the Upper and the Lower Peninsula. You can't ignore one and do one for the other, and then halfway do everything the way it's been planned there. I think all these considerations of fans, if you want to win some fans, and really and truly they need to win fans because what they've been doing the last 5 and 6 and 7 years here has not been really accomplished. And, we're the ones who fill up the seat, so they need to represent and try to track all parts of Michigan with the players, coaching staffs, and some of the things that they do educational-wise with the kids in the schools and whatnot. It needs to start happening a lot better there.
Well said, Butch, and we're definitely looking forward to that here in the UP. Let's look at the Stanley Cup Finals, Butch. Game 4, as we record this show, will be happening in about an hour in St. Louis. The Boston Bruins lead the St. Louis Blues by a 2-1 count after St. Louis won their first ever Stanley Cup Final game. In Game 2, it was all Boston. They put the whooping to St. Louis by the score of 7-2. And so pretty much a must-win, I would think, tonight, Butch, for St. Louis. Again, a team that really overachieved just to get to this point, although you didn't think so because you had them going, I believe, to the Stanley Cup Final. But right now they're up against a very strong, tested, playoff-type Boston team. What's your thoughts going into Game 4?
Well, they're going to have to do the same thing as Golden State did. They got to kind of wean in and win a game at home because, again, they have that right of knowing that if it ends in 7 games, they'll be in St. Louis here. Or, it'll be in Boston. I'm sorry.
Right.
Well, it will. They have to hold court in St. Louis there and do some winning. And then still one in Boston, still a couple in Boston in order to make good at this particular there. But again, I don't think St. Louis is rattled. I think it's going to be a lot more aggressive game, a lot more hitting in this game for the fans because of what they gave the fans on Saturday night was not what St. Louis wanted there. From what I understand, the crowd was kind of silent after the second period. Well, maybe a little bit before because Boston was, again, as you say, was giving them a good whooping there. And St. Louis is going to have to pick it up, especially on defense there, especially in helping the goaltender. They're very good in helping the goaltender out because I noticed their goaltender, Bennington, is a one-puck artist there. But again, he always had help in clearing the nets and getting that puck out of the way, harm's way of the goaltender, and being able to either get some offense going or clear the puck where, he can kind of reset himself there.
Butch Davis joining us on the game. Butch, let's move on to the Detroit Tigers, a team that's, struggling, as we've talked about over the past few weeks, losing 2 out of 3 in Atlanta. They'll start a home set Tuesday night against Tampa Bay. Tigers right now 22-34, 17 games out of first place, and the red-hot Minnesota Twins, how about that team? 40-18, definitely the talk of the league, at least the American League and all of baseball for that matter. Butch, what's going on with the Tigers?
I would say, and I'm trying to be very decent about this, because the way I do feel, we need one of them census shows, because there's some things that need to be kind of addressed. And with a team that right now has some rotten eggs on the roster, and where you have these young kids expanding themselves, be given the opportunity there. And I'm not talking about Jamer Castellanos, okay, who was sent to the minor leagues, came back, and really has given the Detroit Tigers absolutely nothing. But however, in Toledo, he gave him a 340 batting average, 3 home runs, and plenty of RBIs. It's a different world when you come in Major League Baseball. It's even a different world when you don't make a contribution. And I see our fair weather friends and whatnot there come up and maybe make a good 2 or 3 games. And then after that, Montoose was one of those. Give you 2 good games and a great play and don't give you nothing else. Well, yes, he deserves to be in the minor leagues right now to kind of understand the responsibility that it takes to make it in the major league and stay in the major league. They don't have that right now. I think they're finally getting the outfield set where, we could say Stewart and Jones and Castellanos will be the outfield. However, Nico Goodwin needs to be given a position. And where the position I think he would very much so excel at would be third base. And I say this because he's been the best I've seen of the Tigers this year. They're not going to get other players back immediately soon because of, again, age and the injuries they counteract. I can't stand him just being placed at third base, and the next game they put him at second base, and one game they play him at first base. Give this guy a position that he can harness right now that he deserves to be playing in, and let him play there. They do the same thing with Scott Dixon, okay? And Scott Dixon, yes, you got to find a place for this young man to play. He's been outstanding since he's been up in Detroit, and, he's putting in some full-time games because of injuries and whatnot there. And he is producing with his home runs, with his power that I didn't expect him to have. But, again, he played some pretty good doggone defense. But, again, even in his situation, they need to find a place for him to play. Now, first base seemed to be his calling there. And with Miguel Cabrera out of the lineup for a while because of knee soreness and whatnot, hopefully we'll get to see him more at first base because he really excels there. Better than he will put Hicks in the game and really don't excel anywhere but as a catcher and his offense and whatnot there. So Tigers right now doing a lot of experience, and I haven't talked about the pitching staff that stinks. Although I did see some great pitching performances, but again, The bullpen stinks. And that needs to be harnessed. Either start bringing up some kids from Toledo or Erie. I'm saying even Erie, okay? Have a coming to Jesus meeting with some of the players and get them to know they can't stay here doing what they're doing. And the pitchers know who they are, and they know how much they're putting in, the farmers and whatnot, that we continue to give them time up on this team, but yet still they don't produce, okay? And they got to produce. There are several games on this last road series that the Tigers were winning and did not hold the lead. So that has to be established before they get anywhere else, Scott.
Butch Davis speaking the truth here on the game. Butch, let's kind of morph into the round table. Just you and I tonight here. We'll go for another maybe 15, 20 minutes. I'm going to open up the floor. Butch, what do you want to talk about tonight that we haven't covered or you want to expand more on?
I'll get some laughs and whatnot today here. I read some stories, and of course, everything has been close to the vest this weekend because so much is going on. Calvin Johnson, let's talk about him. This is a guy who, after 11 years in the NFL, gave nothing but his heart and soul to the Detroit Lions as far as a performer and doing his job. He suddenly retired, got married, and got retired, okay? And scared everybody because, again, he did a Barry Sanders number on it, and Detroit wasn't going anywhere as far as playoff contributions or anything. They had just hired a brand new coach, and how many coaches have Calvin Johnson went through so far since he's been with the Lions 11 years? When he decided he quit, and I could see he was given a bonus. That bonus was not prorated. The Lions took that bonus away from him in order to allow him to retire at full respect. And many of us feel that it was wrong of the Lions to show their loyalty to someone. And when it came down to them looking after themselves and their family life, didn't give a good cahoot. And the Lions need to fix that. I think Calvin Johnson, if he can come in every now and then, of course, I'll let you Metropolitan fans know that he'll be spending a lot of time in the metropolitan Detroit area because he owns with another Lion a marijuana dispensary that he's been fully licensed by the state of Michigan. So you'll see a lot of him making money in the state of that particular cash crop. However, for it comes to the Lions and whatnot here, and maybe have some influence on some players, maybe help some players in some aid, or just being a good all-American man, because this is a guy who hopefully will go to the Hall of Fame. He might go maybe a second go around. He's not going to go maybe in his first, but his second go around, he's going to make it. He's a Hall of Famer. So I'll just get your little touch on that there.
Butch, I think you and I are going to agree. Again, we need EJ maybe to disagree with one of us because, you said it correctly. I mean, Calvin Johnson is deserving of that money that he is owed due to his retirement in 2016. You're talking about the best wide receiver, arguably, in Detroit Lions history. And if the Detroit Lions want to be serious and try to do something to please the fans, because it doesn't seem like they do it very much, they need to make this happen. This should be chump change for that franchise. The amount of money that good, hardworking people have donated to that organization for now 60-plus years with one playoff win. We're 10,000 days and change now, 10,010, I think, since the last Detroit Lions playoff victory all the way back in 1992 when I was still in high school. That's a long time ago, sports fans, and this is something that needs to be done. And it's not really the first time that the Lions have kind of done a player wrong, for lack of a better term. I mean, all you have to do is go back not too many years to Barry Sanders, arguably one of their best, if not their best ever running back. The Lions have been trying to repair that relationship when, When Barry Sanders retired, I believe he had a signing bonus of a couple million, and the Lions initially asked Sanders to return, I think, $5 or $6 million, and even sued him, if you can believe that. Back in the day, the team never paid back the money, but eventually, the Lions and Barry Sanders have made somewhat of a peace. But this is something that the Lions need to get ahead of and just do. If there's any chance Calvin Johnson is coming back to this team, then you make that happen. If it's $1 million, if it's $2 million, if it's $10 million, you make it happen, because this is the team that needs to do something for its fan base that they just don't seem to do. And people year in and year out go sell out that stadium, buy the $15 drinks, buy the $40 parking, and they get nothing in return. So if nothing else, Lions, throw the fans a bone, for crying out loud. Pay the $1.1 million to Calvin Johnson, a guy that did no wrong by trying to take care of the things that were important to him at that time. And if coming back to football is important to him at this time, make it happen. Ron Wood, Marcia Ford, or whoever, make it happen, Butch. I'm full support of Johnson coming back, getting his money, and giving the fans something.
Yeah, well, you give them something. You brought up a good point. This is not the only Lion that the Lions kind of turned their nose up at. We go back in the days of Alex Karras, okay? Another true player for the Detroit Lions and whatnot, and seemed to get better respect doing movies and Blazing Saddle and his own TV show with Webster and whatnot.
Yes.
He did as a player for the Detroit Lions, which he was nothing but great when he was playing there in the good old scrubby days when I was young. And the Lions were like a mediocre team there, but you loved watching them play defense with the Wayne Walkers and some of those players lining up in the backfield. Mike Lucci is another one and whatnot. They're not good at getting some of these players back in the system there where, teams like New England does it very well, and especially Dallas. Dallas does a fine job of making sure that their players, past and present, get played, get taken care of royally there. It just is senseless for the Lions to go back and you said it best, the money that they make from us, the fans, and other ventures as well, that would be a problem with them there. And all this man has done but fill up the seats when they had no reason for people to come down there at all. Give the man this money. Give him whatever he deserves. And you didn't feel he deserved it, take a mulling for the team and give him his money.
Nice part about it now, Butch, is Calvin Johnson has all the leverage. He don't need to do this. He's perfectly in control. If the Lions say no, it doesn't, no sweat off of his skin. So I like the fact that for once a player's in control over a big, sometimes quote-unquote evil organization.
Mm-hmm. That's definitely a fact. That's a fact indeed.
Butch, let's keep it lighthearted here. I got one topic for the round table, and since you and I are the wrestling guys, sports entertainment foes, or not foes, but we like the WWE, and I'm really interested in this whole AEW promotion. Of course, that was brought by mainly Cody Rhodes is the ringleader of this organization. They held their first pay-per-view a couple weeks ago now, featuring Dean Ambrose, or the artist formerly known as Dean Ambrose. I believe he's John Moxley now, his character in AEW. You also have Dustin Rhodes, Chris Jericho, among others. You're seeing some others maybe moving towards that organization. They're going to get a television show at some point on TNT that will be during prime time. And I guess the question I have for you is are these guys going to be major players in the world of wrestling? Kind of hard to predict right now, but we really haven't seen another organization really since WCW back in obviously the late 90s and before they fell hard in 2001. I mean, you've had TNA wrestling. You see a few other ones around, but to me, Butch, this might be the main competition, if there is such a thing, for WWE. And I just want your take on, is this AEW, is there potential in maybe reigniting some of the Monday Night Wars? Obviously not the way that we saw them in the 90s with the PC culture that we're under right now. There's no way you could do most of that stuff. I just want your thoughts on AEW and what this means for wrestling moving forward.
Well, what it means is that the wrestlers, who are, I would say, wrestling in the killing circuits and whatnot here, as I call it here. And, we're talking about Hollywood wrestling that is seen in certain areas. It's definitely seen in Detroit area, Hollywood wrestling. And also Florida wrestling is also seen in the Detroit area. And you see some of the great wrestlers of those particulars there do pretty doggone well. And also New Japan wrestling that's given a play, which you can see on Axis, okay, every Friday night there. And they do, for a while, Jim Ross was part of that ensemble. Now he's over there to the AEW there. But again, the surplus of wrestlers are not getting airtime. Again, you will see many come out of that WWE and go over to that particular, and that's including some of those wrestlers I named in other ensembles like Hollywood Wrestling and some of the other ones. Memphis Wrestling is another one that not only goes full time all year round. There is wrestling going on in Texas and whatnot as well, where they have a small ensemble down there for minor league wrestling and for wrestlers to get exposure, and it's on TV and maybe in those markets and whatnot. We'll get to see a lot there. Once they go on television and establish a day and a time, or maybe do something like they did a long time ago, where they kind of compete against Monday Night Raw, which really and truly right now they probably won't get to compete against Monday Night Raw until maybe a couple years invented where there's wrestling that they can show other people that's alternative to WWE, just show more on television, which they say the Turner Network will get it, but they have not given a date and a time yet when these particulars will be on television and whatnot. But again, the Dean Ambroses and the Chris Jerichos that you don't see no more on WWE, who are still active wrestlers even in Japan or elsewhere. Kenny Omega is another that nobody gets to see a whole heck of a lot. He's one of the best wrestlers right now. He is in my ranking as far as the wrestler. He's ranked number 2 right now as a wrestler, okay, bar none. AJ Styles would be my number 1 there, okay? But this guy, Kenny Omega, is something special. And really and truly, it's going to be to the knowledge when people get to see him perform and some of the things he do in the ring. Oh, you're gonna say wow! But take a look at Kenny Omega and some of the acting he do there. If you kind of notice too, also Scott, the script writing for the WWE has either gotten better toward TV, or they got something cooked up and planned where right now they haven't let everybody know that. The wrestlers that's coming out there, some of the things they're doing now, some of the little gimmicks they're putting in. In fact, I think the 24/7 gimmick is one of the gimmicks that I laugh at. But again, it's pretty comical indeed. But it keeps things moving toward wrestling and not so much toward interviews and whatnot. There is something to take a look at as well.
Yeah, I've noticed that too, Butch, watching the WWE. It seems like since WrestleMania, they've had a lot of momentum leading in. They had a good WrestleMania. And the thing I like about a wrestling fan, and I've been watching wrestling like you for a long, long time, and the surprises and the unpredictability. And that can be hard sometimes when you're working with so many hours of television. And speaking for the WWE, because I haven't seen AEW and a lot of these other promotions, but obviously the WWE is the big dog, and they're going to be moving to Fox here coming up in the fall with SmackDown, and so it's going to be a whole new world for them. But you have a lot of television, and especially Raw being 3 hours, sometimes that can really drag on. But I've noticed over the past few episodes, and I think, like you said, the storylines are becoming tighter, and it's the unpredictability that really has always made wrestling what it is to me. I mean, you go back to the Monday Night Wars. I mean, when where there were so many aspects of, wow, these guys, are they actually like invading this other company? You didn't really know. And I think a lot of that is gone now because of technology and the internet. You don't have the surprises because if you go online and you do as much as I do, Butch, or a lot of people do, you can go and you can get the spoilers, and you got, the Dave Meltzers that, will run, what's going on, and you just don't have the surprises because of technology. And I think that's a big part of why a lot of people, heart for the glory days of the Monday Night Wars. I just think with the current situation the way it is, I just don't know if it's possible we can recreate that. Can we?
Well, no. Well, you can. Well, WWE, for example, when WWE first came out, you saw them on USA. You saw them twice on Saturday for, the independents and whatnot, who picked their particular shows up there. You also maybe got a special on Saturday night on USA from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock of the best matches on Raw. They don't do that no more, okay? They stick to the one there. Fox, to me, for the WWE, will be the Cadillac, and that's going to surpass maybe Raw. Some of the things they do. Fox is a big player, okay, in television itself, and everything Fox do is kind of big, okay? They ruined the National Football League, but made the National Football League better when they outbidded everybody and gave somebody $1 billion, not even ever seen in the National Football League, and they took over that and made one person very unhappy, and I do believe that was CBS, okay, who put their little regular bid in like there was no competition out there at all. And Fox just went and overcame them. I think they're going to do the same thing and put the money in wrestling again, where they know the notoriety's there. They know if they put their 2 cents in and their technology in and join in with the WWE, it will be kind of special there, because they're going to insist that you have some great matches. They're not going to insist on these potty pat type of episodes that they give sometime on SmackDown and Raw.
Well, we are looking forward to it, Butch, and of course you and I and our show will cover it. Let's get to our thumbs up and thumbs down for the week, my friend. I will start. I'm going to keep it all positive today. I was going to give thumbs down to the Tigers, but you covered that way better than I could. So I have 4 thumbs up. We'll go through them quickly. First of all, thumbs up to our good friend Dave McCaig. Dave's been on a little hiatus over the past month. Had a chance to call him a segment ago. He will be back next week, June 10th, for our Wicked Sister edition of the game, and then, of course, for his show. So we're very happy to have Mr. McCaig back, all healthy, ready to go, and definitely a big part of our show, along with myself, Butch, and EJ Russell. So welcome back, Dave. We'll see you next week. Thumbs up to the World Cup of Cricket. Butch, this one goes under the radar, but I'll tell you what, I've been watching a lot of it. I get an all cricket channel, thankfully, at Willow Television, and I've been watching a lot of the World Cup of Cricket. Again, it's a sport that a lot of people just maybe aren't too excited about, but I find the strategy and the history and the passion that these countries have. Today, Pakistan defeated England. The World Cup is in England. Pakistan, who had lost, I think, 11 straight matches, they got rolled in their first match. They ended up beating England, and those fans went crazy because there's a lot of Pakistani folks living in England, along with other cultures, Sri Lanka, India, to name a few. And it's a fun tournament to watch. If you have a chance, go to willowtv.com. You can see some highlights. Check it out. It's a lot of fun. Thumbs up coming up this week, Butch, the Women's World Cup going on in France. I am very excited to be watching that, and so that's going to be very exciting. And my final thumbs up to Nav Bhatia. Now you say, who is that? Well, we talked earlier, Butch, about Toronto and some of the fans. Now, if you haven't been watching the Raptors for a while, you will happen to notice that behind one of the, right below, I should say, one of the baskets, you'll see a gentleman with the Raptors jersey, wears the same one, I believe it's 95, and he has, he's of Indian descent. He's actually from India, so he wears his cultural headdress there. He is an absolute super fan. Butch, I know you've seen him there. He's a 67-year-old individual that has been going to the Raptors games since 1995. He claims he hasn't missed one since then. This person that immigrated to Canada from India in 1984. He's a car salesman. His advertisements appeared on buses across Ontario. He's also married. He has a daughter. And what I like about him is there was a little incident there during the Milwaukee series with some knucklehead online, I think it was on Twitter, that made a disparaging and racist remark to this individual, Mr. Batia. Now, he was on CBC the next day, and you want to talk about a gentleman. I retweeted it on my Twitter, snason2013. If you have a chance, check it out. You want to talk about a man of just humbleness and grace and just a sports fan, and it's definitely a guy I would love to meet someday. He talked to this individual who admitted they made a mistake, and just watch it, because you don't see a lot of grace these days in anything, in sports, in politics, in life, especially online. And so thumbs up to Nav Bhatia. I hope I got that name pronounced right. Mr. Superfan in Toronto, I know when I watch him behind the basket, he's jumping up and down and trying to distract. He's a great guy, and I just thought the way he handled that situation from that idiot that made a mistake and used the racist language, just Mr. Batia just handled it with grace and class. And so thumbs up, sir. Go Raptors, because I've become a fan of nothing else of him and the Toronto Raptors. So, Butch, that was a lot of thumbs up. I'll turn the floor over to you, my friend.
Well, the Batia story was very, and I have met the guy here. He is a ball of fun. I had a little incident with him and his family there that was quite comical, but it ended up pretty doggone good for yours truly here. One of his cousins and whatnot that I having a conversation with there, and then he came on in and said some things that was not deplorable, of course. They were making fun of me, really. But
oh, no.
The night was great, man. For me personally, with this particular individual, and I still keep in touch with her. And
awesome
to this day. But he himself as a person, oh man, you can't say nothing but good things about him. He is a respectable individual that you wish everyone who walks this face of the earth would, kind of carry themselves in a manner that this guy is. He goes out, he has fun, he gives it all when he does it and all. He does it in an enjoyable manner where everybody can embrace it. He's just, and then in the personal side where I got to, have some, chit chat with him and all, and some things about Toronto and whatnot that I did not know. And I've been up to Toronto at least 10, 15 times in my lifetime there, and will keep going. But he got me hip to some things that I didn't know about. And, when I see him, it's always Mr. Mattia there, and he still remembered my name. And what greater guy to put somebody in their place and do it in a decent manner. Sometimes ignorance is bliss, as the old saying go, the adage say. But again, it's good when one of the good guys do it the right way and can turn some heads to the right frame of mind. Hopefully this guy, with the conversation he had with him, will never do that ever again and influence his other friends who may be doing it as well not to do it there.
Exactly. Put your thumbs up and thumbs down, my friend, for the week.
But that's one thumbs up right there. Thumbs down, Detroit Tigers. They stink. They need to start making some moves and getting some young kids in there. It's very evident that they're not planning to do anything positive with the team that they have on the field. So let's get some kids up here to tryouts and have the tryouts the rest of the doggone year. And so next year can be a happy-go-lucky season with the Detroit Tigers, besides this draw and drum and continually trying to drain us dry by going along with the program that they're getting right now. This team can do a better job in what they have, with the talent they have out there right now. I just need that some buttons have to be pushed for all these kids to excel and accept the fact that they're playing Major League Baseball, and these fans deserve more than what they're giving them.
His name is Butch Davis. You can hear him Monday nights on the Game Sports Show, sponsored by the Wicked Sister. You can also hear his own show, Butch on Sports, which you can find on his podcast page, Simply Butch2. That's TOO.podomatic.com. You can also find him on Facebook. Give a like to Butch on Sports or to our podcast page. You can find all his editions of Butch on Sports on the GameSportsShow.com. Butch, before we let you go, the good news is we handled our business tonight, but we get the four horsemen of the game on Monday night back. Dave McCaig, yours truly, yourself, E.J. Russell, back for our edition. Are you ready for next Monday's full company of contributors and horsemen, if you will.
Fun. Fun. And it was great to hear from Dave, really and truly. We're all a family in this particular business there that, behind the scenes is sometimes a lot more important than what we do on the air there, because we got to take care of one another. Nobody else is going to do it here, So we do our job in making sure that everybody's taken care of, myself included there. And it'll be great to have the whole team back there. Even E.J. Russell and his long-winded self here, man. Boy, you can't. You love every minute of him there, but he puts his heart and soul in the show.
Sure does, as do you, Dave, and myself. Before I let you go, Butch, what's up in store for you before we talk to you next Monday night here on The Game?
Couple of podcasts this week, probably Tuesday or Wednesday, indeed, and also at the butt end of the weekend, Friday or Saturday, or maybe we'll just do a Saturday morning one at 12:07 in the morning time there, and let it be it. So be ready for you Saturday night for your insomniacs, or Sunday morning when you get up and have your cornflakes here,
I like it, Butch. I like it. Hey, great job as always. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you next week on our next edition of The Game, sir.
I'll be waiting.
Looking forward to it. Want to thank Butch and also Dave McCaig for joining us, and you for listening. Again, you can find all editions of The Game on thegamesportshow.com. You can also find it at thegamesportshow.podbean.com, or if you're a YouTube person, just look up the Scott Nason channel. You can find all our shows, these shows, our games shows from Sioux, Ontario. We have a couple editions coming up this week. Also Butch on Sports, and my segments with Paul Van Wagner on ESPN Blacksburg and The Drive. That's going to do it here for The Game on Monday nights from the Wicked Sister. We'll talk to you next Monday night for another edition of The Game on Eagle 95.1, online at thegamesportshow.com.